Hello and welcome to another episode of Mobile Technology Spotlight, sponsored by T-Mobile for Government and presented by Public Safety Insight. T-Mobile is committed to supporting first responders and helping public safety use technology as a force multiplier. I'm Dale Stockton, and today I'll be talking with two people who have a great deal of experience in the wireless industry. Moe Beydoun is the Director, Enterprise Connectivity Sales at T-Mobile. He has almost 30 years experience in the industry, and for the last 2 years, his primary focus has been advancing connectivity at an enterprise level. And David Catzel has been in digital transformation area for 30 years. He's a 5G connectivity solution specialist, and he's worked with major companies like IBM, Intel, Microsoft, and T-Mobile. What a great pair to address this area that's got a lot of growth and new opportunities, this fixed wireless internet, also known as high-speed internet. So let's start with Moe. Thanks so much for being with us today. And could you give us a bit of history about you and a summary of your experience in the wireless industry?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Dale. Excited to be here today and to talk to this audience. A little bit about myself. Like you said, I've been in this industry for about 30 years, combined with Sprint/T-Mobile. You know, we talk about transformation in tech. I've seen tons of transformation. When I first started in this space, we were selling dial tone, and I've seen that change through connectivity solutions like X25 to frame relay to MPLS. And then this thing, the internet, came on board and come to realize that the enterprise is comfortable with the internet, and they're comfortable running their business over the internet with the right level of security measures and protocols to ensure they have the compliance that they need. I took this role about 2 years ago because, candidly, I'm kind of a hockey fan. And Wayne Gretzky used to say, you don't skate to where the puck's at, you skate to where the puck's going. And candidly speaking, I've seen the advent of wireless and the impact it's making to the enterprise. And it's going to have a significant role in 5G, true 5G, in the manner that T-Mobile has deployed it and architected it, is really an unlock for digital transformation. So I'm super excited about our value proposition, super excited about the impact we can make. And just lastly, just from a DNA standpoint, T-Mobile is, we didn't grow up like our largest competitors. We don't have legacy services to protect or be focused on. We're unencumbered. Therefore, our motivation is all in on 5G, all in on wireless. That's exciting to be a part of.
That's great. David, how about a snapshot of how you came to be with us today, and then we'll get right to the questions.
Absolutely. Like Moe, I've been around for a little while, and what has been fascinating about this whole digital transformation that has happened over the past 30 years is that there are three components. There's the cloud as a fundamental foundational element. There's software, that's applications, that's AI. It's the underlying software that makes everything work. But making it all work, connecting it all, is connectivity. Wireless connectivity in particular, I think, is a breakthrough. And that's what really attracted me to T-Mobile.
All right, those were great intros. Let's move right to the specific area of interest today, fixed wireless internet. So Moe, could you explain what this technology is? And then maybe David could follow with a couple of use cases reflecting how that technology is being used.
Absolutely. Today, most internet consumption is consumed over wires, traditional cable lines, fiber lines, traditional legacy TDM circuits. We at T-Mobile can provide those same type of services, but in a wireless manner. We can leverage the macro network and the capacity and tonnage that we have and deliver broadband-like speeds in a fixed wireless manner. We deliver an endpoint appliance, an endpoint router with an Ethernet port on the back that hangs off the back, and an organization can leverage that for traditional Ethernet needs, or they can leverage the Wi-Fi capacity and capability that comes off of that router. David, do you want to spend a few minutes talking about how that applies to public safety?
Absolutely. Building on what Moe has said, I'd like to chat a little bit about the real value for temporary situations. where, for example, if you're talking about operational resilience and flexibility, and you have a situation, whether it be an active shooter situation or whatever the incident is, and you need to very quickly set up a robust, reliable, secure Wi-Fi situation. This is a really good solution. It gives you reliability. Installation is pretty darn rapid because particularly if you can plug it into an existing cable situation, and you can use it for backup connectivity. You might have an active shooter incident, you might have a flood incident, and this is a really good answer. In the case of emergency response, we've heard from our customers who find it very useful, particularly for temporary shelter kind of situations. So taking the flood instance I spoke about, if you need to set up connectivity for folks who are stuck in a large tent while a flash flood or other weather incident is passing by, you can very rapidly get them set up so that they have the news, they have the connection to loved ones, and they're able to continue to operate in this situation.
That's great. Now, you've already answered a little bit of this, David, in your response, but what would you guys say to an IT manager that says, look, we've already got internet services in our facility. It's meeting our needs. There's really no reason to introduce a wireless solution. What are they missing?
I can take that. This is Mo. I think the first and probably the best use case in those scenarios is business continuity and resiliency at a lower entry point. Historically speaking, traditional wireline and tethered services, as you consume more, the price goes up at a significant pace. And traditional services are susceptible to physical impacts. Backhoe fade through a parking lot, digs up a line during construction, you're out of service, you're out of business. Weather takes down a power line that could be where your line traverses, could put you out of business. The beauty of a fixed wireless service is it provides an inherent, resilient connectivity offer at a low entry price point that can give you that 4 nines, 5 nines of availability you need to run your business at a much lower price point.
One additional point I'd make to what Mo just articulated is also scalability, particularly if you're in a temporary location like a mobile command center and you need to scale up and extend connectivity. This is a pretty easy way to do it.
Sounds really flexible. So we hear so much about 5G these days, and especially from T-Mobile, understandably. Is T-Mobile's government internet, is it operating on 5G?
Absolutely. Our T-Mobile for government services all operate on our nationwide 5G SA network. And when I say SA, it means standalone. What does that mean to our public safety and public sector customers? It means that we've built a network from the ground up. 5G is just not another G. It's a brand new architecture where we've decentralized the control plane for decision making in our network, and we've moved it to the edge. What that means for our government customers is a couple of things. Greater resiliency, because now the compute that we deliver as a managed network provider sits closer to where they use it, meaning there's less susceptibility to outages. It also means that because it's closer to where it's actually being consumed, it delivers a lower latency, so better service performance, better throughput. And we abide by the standards, the governing body standards for 5G. Therefore, a lot of the innovation and unlock that comes with 5G is something that we're going to be able to natively do. Things like network slicing. What is network slicing in its simplest forms? It's being able to deliver a tailored user experience specific to that customer's application. Think about how you would leverage that in a fixed wireless. There's applications that specific public safety customer is looking to unlock. T-Mobile can actually deliver a specific slice, specific to their use case, tailored to their needs, and eventually one day be provisioned and stood up on demand from a customer standpoint. So absolutely, our network is unique from an architecture standpoint and built to support our government grade customers.
That's a great response. I really appreciate you addressing the standalone and the network slicing. Those are relatively new terms, and it's really got some relevance to public safety. So, David, take it to the next level, and we understand coverage varies and all of those types of situations. But what kind of speeds, what types of things are customers able to do? What would their user experience be?
So I'd look to Moe, who probably has better information on the latest speeds, but I would say that the enhanced speed you get directly contributes to the faster response times of officers and potentially saving lives as a result. With T-Mobile's government fixed wireless internet, officers have a definite connectivity edge they need to effectively serve and protect the community.
And in regards to speeds, I guess a couple of comments. First of all, to be considered a broadband service, you actually have to meet a certain requirement by FCC standards, a minimum of 25 meg download via 95% of the country. And so from a speed standpoint, we certainly meet those requirements. From a real world standpoint, you can expect, depending on where you're at, from an availability standpoint, from a coverage standpoint, real world sustained bandwidth speeds of 200 meg, 300 meg as an average. I've seen as high as 600 meg coming across our fixed wireless platforms, and as low as 50 meg. So certainly from an apples to apples standpoint, if you compare that to traditional tethered broadband services that are enterprise grade, I think really that's where you're going to see the value prop explode for public safety. There's a much lower entry point with fixed wireless and just greater flexibility, quicker speed to market. All of that contributes to the simple, easy to deploy, easy to manage customer experience that is so critical to T-Mobile and how we support our customers.
I love that you ended with the support aspect because it's a segue to this next question. A lot of agencies are understandably concerned about having failover capability for mission essential and mission critical operations. So, could one or both of you explain what the term failover means and how the wireless internet plays a role in that regard?
I just have to jump in because I'm chuckling a little bit. Literally last week, we had a customer call about, it's the classic, the backhoe ran over and untethered the fiber coming into my building. And we went down. We were down for hours before we figured out what went wrong and how to fix it. Traditional wired connections are susceptible to outages because of cable damage or physical infrastructure issues. Fixed wireless uses cellular technology, and that provides a reliable backup or automatic failover if your primary internet goes down. It just seamlessly takes over and ensures that your mission-critical communication channels remain open, whether it's in the office, in the field, or at an incident scene.
That's a story that's hard to top. What about security concerns? And can this solution be set up for private access?
Well, first of all, I actually wanted to go back and add commentary to the previous question in regards to failover, what it means. I'm sure many of our customers have engaged in SD deployments, essentially leveraging existing technology that's out there today to optimize their networks. Fixed wireless can play a very, very key role in that. So when we talk about failover, there's several deployment models that can be put in place. There's active, where you're leveraging your traditional tethered broadband services in conjunction with the wireless, and then the SD network, the SD component appliance that the customer has chosen actually takes both of those connections and optimizes the data traffic that goes over the network in a real-time basis, taking the best path to communicate and complete that transmission. There's also active passive, active standby deployments that can be put in place. And some of these have commercial implications. It's all what fits best for that specific public safety customer. But in that case, your primary mode of communication could be your broadband connection, and you would leverage the backup wireless connection based on triggers that are deployed within your routing infrastructure to kick in when needed. So when that backhoe takes out the fiber line, the intelligence in the network and the routing kicks in, and to the end user, to the public safety institution, municipality, customer, it's seamless. They don't see the actual impact to that outage and severity. So I wanted to make sure that we covered the various deployment options and what this has really done from an optimization standpoint for customers. It's allowed them to get more bang for their buck. A lot of communications in this space are mission critical, and organizations pay for redundant networks, historically redundant wired networks that can be very costly. You can deliver the same outcome now, today, by moving into we'll call it a hybrid type of deployment, where it's a combination of traditional wired services and wireless services, and get the same outcome from a business continuity and a resiliency standpoint. Now I'll answer the security question. 5G, our network is inherently resilient. We deploy robust encryption and security protocols into our 5G network. I think what is really important is that 5G is a flat architecture that's scalable, whether it's within the four walls of an institution, whether it's out on the road. It's the same flat architecture that really simplifies, as an operator, the ability to deliver a simple solution. In conjunction, if organizations are looking to provide additional layers of security, we actually have a SASE solution, secure access, secure edge. It's kind of a Gartner coined term, but in its simplest forms is what we've done is we've stood up a security partner in our cloud that has allowed us to deliver security VPN-like services based on the SIM level, based on the Magenta SIM that we put in the endpoint device, whether it's a fixed wireless router or a phone or a tablet or a video camera, whatever it may be that's SIM enabled. T-Mobile can lock that down and provide VPN-like functionality. And then we can take it one step further and provide an entire comprehensive security suite that essentially gives you firewall in the cloud to create that zero trust ZTNA network experience that so many institutions are looking for. So from a T-Mobile standpoint, we feel that we've created a very elegant, simple, easy to deploy security portfolio, and we give our customers a single pane of glass to have that visibility into their network environment to manage their services on the fly.
Just going to ask Mo if he could speak to private network as an option.
Absolutely. So at T-Mobile, we're obviously very focused on connectivity and all forms of connectivity. I know today our focus has been on fixed wireless and how we can deliver low entry points, cost entry points, and flexibility for public safety. One of the other burgeoning spaces that's out there that's unlocking transformation for organizations is this concept of a private network. And what a private network does, at least from a T-Mobile standpoint, is we can provide connectivity services, and you can envision kind of an umbrella bubble of coverage over a fixed footprint, whether it's a police station, whether it's a yard, whether it's a campus environment, and we air gap that from the public internet. So we keep that traffic local. Typically, private networks provide greater throughput speeds and lower latency. Why that's important, a lot of the buzzwords and a lot of the use cases that we're seeing from a transformation standpoint are things like automation, taking a manual intensive process and creating an automation behind it, AR, VR, and being able to leverage those for training or virtual tech support. You've heard the term computer vision, smart AI-enabled cameras. All of these things require networks that are secure in nature, but most importantly, deliver the throughput and performance required to drive those applications. So T-Mobile can do that, and we can do that over licensed spectrum as well as unlicensed spectrum.
Really extensive in its capabilities. I'm very impressed with what you guys have said so far, but what about the installation? How difficult is it to get this thing up and running? And perhaps just as importantly in public safety, how disruptive will that installation be in a 24/7 operation?
Well, I think that's really the sweet spot, if I'm being honest. That's outside of the low-cost entry point. The flexibility that fixed wireless affords our customers is second to none. We don't need lengthy provisioning cycles. We essentially can ship you the device and it can be self-installed with very easy to use instructions. It's the same user experience regardless of market. So the user experience we deliver in Chicago is the same user experience in Los Angeles, is the same user experience in Orlando. The pricing is the same, unlike traditional wired services that are typically regional in nature and mileage based. So our pricing structure is the same. We can certainly provide a managed service in those capabilities. And if there's any minor engineering that's required, like deploying an antenna to provide that signal from an outdoor standpoint, we can certainly provide those services. So, it runs the gamut of self-service, self-deployment. I deployed this for my mother-in-law. Her broadband bill went up to about $125. I purchased the service and installed it for her at home, and it took me about 15 minutes. She couldn't be more thrilled. Being simple, being easy to do business with, part of our DNA at T-Mobile. And we take the same approach with our public safety customers in making sure that we deliver that same experience.
I like it. David, you want to add anything to that?
I think the key point is that it is easy and agile and pretty quick to install. You can either leverage an existing wiring infrastructure within the building and attach an antenna, or you quickly attach an antenna outside if you don't have the macro coverage. But to Moe's point, the agility of it is really important.
Both of you mentioned an external antenna a couple of times. I understand why that may or may not be needed, but what about any other equipment? And is there anything specialized that has to be added on? So many times we hear about something and then you find out, oh, but you got to have this. And then what about ongoing maintenance? Is there any type of upcharge for maintenance?
There's no upcharge for maintenance. It's part of the service that we deploy. As far as any additional pieces of equipment, every organization has its own potential requirements and deviations, but our service is pretty simple. We're going to provide a rate plan, and we're going to provide the hardware needed to deliver that experience. We also provide customers the option of bringing their own hardware. If a certain municipality, public safety customer has standardized on an OEM that we don't necessarily catalog, but can support our network SIM requirements, we certainly would allow customers to bring their own equipment if that was a route of choice. But no, Dale, it's pretty straightforward in how we deliver the service. And obviously, I'm oversimplifying it. There are other more comprehensive solutions that we could potentially look at, but it all comes with a little bit of discovery in really understanding what our customers' specific use case is and what their requirements are. And that's what we look to do at T-Mobile, is we look to solution to the outcome that the customer is looking for. And we feel that our products, as it relates to fixed wireless, is diverse enough to be able to solve those needs.
Now, I've got T-Mobile home internet. It was really simple to install. Plug it in, find the right spot. It's essentially a gateway to the internet. Now, in a government internet setup, are you adding a router always, or is that an option for the customer? What about that?
Certainly, we can provide a router. There are some additional things that we do from a business standpoint that are unique to business customers over what our consumers are buying. We can apply some policy filtering natively. What that means, if you don't want your end user to go to specific sites or, say, stream video, watch Netflix, we can certainly apply some policy specific to that municipality's requirements as a value add with no additional cost to do those sorts of things. But in its simplest forms, yeah, it's a device, and the connectivity based on what's available in the market that they serve. And more than likely, it would be in a market where T-Mobile could provide unlimited data connectivity, no different than the way they consume traditional broadband services today.
One additional comment to what Moe said. We really take a strategic partnership approach to our customer engagements. We look to understand what they need, we make the recommendations, and then we help them with the right solution that solves the problem today and will scale to their future needs as we move forward over time in our relationship. So it's not just about putting in place a solution today and walking away from it, but rather a more extended, extensive relationship over time.
All right. So let's take a step back, specifically for IT managers that have responsibility for supporting public safety. Any recommendations for what they should consider when evaluating this and where they can get more information on this specific topic?
The biggest thing to consider is to take a step back and look at your environment and look at where wireless can play an optimized role to provide you more redundancy in your ecosystem, more flexibility and nimbleness, potentially new use cases where you didn't necessarily weren't able to deliver services in the past. For example, today connectivity is limited to where you got Wi-Fi, which is typically indoors, or you have an Ethernet connection hanging off of a switch somewhere. And use cases have become more mobile. They've become more mobile centric. The ability to take this fixed wireless connection and put it in a kiosk, or if the department is looking to have some sort of engagement with the community and needs to be able to connect, the ability to stand up one of these appliances in a temporary state without having expensive wires run, and can do this in a pretty expeditious period of time. I mean, just think of that ability for them to serve their communities more in a more intimate way, where I can get closer to my community, get out of the station, and leverage technology to do so.
Wow, I really, really like your example of the kiosk. I can just envision the flexibility that this type of technology could give you in providing a service level where they are in a way that we've never been able to do before. David, before we close it out, you deal a lot in the field with customers. They're probably coming up with new ideas. Do you have an add-on to the kiosk comment that Mo made?
We find there are so many of these sorts of applications, everything from remote signage to give people directions. So if you have a sporting event and suddenly you need to put up signage quickly to direct traffic and tell people where to go and where to park, that's an application. My customer set has made enormous use. I'm sort of overemphasizing the temporary stuff, but the ability to very quickly put up a network for a immediate need is just a very good application of this technology.
It really is the art of the possible when you untether connectivity and you're able to deliver it where it's not traditionally consumed in a way that can be private, can be secure, can be nimble at a low entry point. It's really the art of the possible, and what that specific municipality is looking to do from an engagement standpoint. It's opened up so many doors. And I always make the analogy or the example, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, did you think you'd get in a stranger's car to get a ride home from the airport? Probably not. But that's what 4G did. 5G is unlocking a whole new ecosystem of business development. I think we're really just seeing the tip of the iceberg. And it's so exciting what this is going to unlock. And I guess in closing, T-Mobile has the country's largest 5G SA network. Well, we have the country's only 5G standalone network. We serve a higher population base than any of our competitors. From a third party standpoint, we've won countless numbers of awards for uplink, downlink, performance, reliability, throughput, customer service. The number of JD Powers awards that we won are numerous. Everything we do in our DNA is to provide the best customer experience, the best network experience at the best value. There was a time when you couldn't get both. And we're very bold and brash that at T-Mobile, we can deliver that to our customer base.
Very well said, both of you guys. I thank you for sharing your time today. Mo, I really like that term you use, the art of the possible, because It seems like this technology really is going to introduce a whole new paradigm for public safety, and those use cases will continue to evolve. And one of the things we do well in public safety is we learn from what other people are doing and then stand on the shoulders of the people that have come before. David, any closing words to the audience?
The real value of high-speed internet, as we've been discussing, if I were just to call it out, cost-effective primary internet. It offers unlimited government high-speed internet at a competitive price point, so the cost savings. Fast and reliable connectivity, where you need it, when you need it, along with security. Scalability and flexibility that we talked to, plug-and-play kind of setup. Improving business continuity we spoke about, the redundancy, the failover. And then in terms of public safety applications, particularly for our audience here, police and fire departments can find enormous benefit from the reliability and speed of T-Mobile fixed wireless internet, particularly for critical communications and data sharing.
All right. You guys nailed it. I want to thank you again for your time and mention that there is a white paper that's available, recently published. We'll put a link to that white paper in our show notes for today's podcast. And so that concludes today's episode of Mobile Technology Spotlight, sponsored by T-Mobile for Government and presented proudly by Public Safety Insight. Stay safe out there, everyone.